Okay. All right. So the fifth element, and again, I know you're not seeing how to do this yet, but we're going to use an example. But I want to go through these 8 elements first, and then we'll come back to them. But in my mind, the campaign must connect to a search engine optimized website. So this is, some people will argue this point. I do have the, I guess I do have the presentation and the microphone at this point. But I'd like to point out that any effective campaign today has to involve the web or a website or a blog. And I say that because it gives us a level of measurability we never had before. Back in the old Mad Men days, where they would run TV ads or magazine ads, and they would put a lot of information out there where they'd be yelling at or speaking at their customer. Today, we are involved in a conversation. We are involved in sharing of information, and we can be destroyed by social media, or we can be buoyed and built up by social media. And it's all about content, and it's about content generally on a website or a blog. And for that thing to be effective, to help you keep gathering new customers on into the future, that content, that website, that blog, that social media should be search engine optimized. And by that, I mean that it's following the rules that Google and Bing and everybody else is out there putting on what they mean as search engine optimized. And Google tells you exactly how to build these kinds of websites. So that's not in the not really in the scope of this particular webinar, but to be an effective campaign, in my opinion, somehow the website needs to be involved, and it needs to be involved in a multi-step, multi-stage, multimedia and medium. And so I'm using all of those terms, and I think they're all slightly different. But the website has to be involved. And when we talk about O2O, the online to the offline, an effective campaign, online to offline or offline to online, we go back and forth, and I'll show you what I mean by that. The idea we may start offline and then take our customers online, and then we may go back offline again, meaning as some kind of an analog or a physical type of a thing like a brochure. But the idea is somehow we get them to a website, because we want them to be able to share information, to dig into what it is we're offering, why we're offering it, what our unique selling proposition is, and have our evidence there. We can only put so much information into a tweet or into a letter or into an ad or a billboard or anything that we use as a tactic in our campaign. We can only put so much information there. And by involving a website that people can find later on, or can refer to their friends, because again, we want this stuff to leave behind a digital footprint so that they can refer other people to our website or to our Twitter feed or our Pinterest board or any of those kinds of things. But the campaign, in my mind, for an O2O effective campaign has to involve or connect to a search engine optimized website. So when I've talked to people about getting and doing marketing work, one of the first things we do is we say, okay, before you do anything else, we talk about strategy, we talk about unique selling proposition, we understand the marketing position in the mind of the customer, and then the first thing we do is we go look at the website and we check to make sure that it is search engine optimized. Google Webmaster Tools, if you're not using Google Webmaster Tools, you can just go ahead and Google Webmaster Tools, and it will have a number of tools there that you can use to check how good your search, how optimized you are for search engines. The competition, Bing and other search engines also have these kinds of things. There's a number of marketing and search engine companies that have these tools available to you. We've shared some of those in the Emerging Leaders curriculum. So make sure that if you're going to do this effective campaign that we're going to talk about in a second, if you're going to do that, make sure before you start that you have a good website with good content that really carries forward and is evidence to your your unique selling proposition and what you are doing in the what you want to create in the mind of the customer. Those things are easy to say, they're easy to test, but it takes work to get to that point. If you do a great job of driving people to your website or creating awareness through a wonderful billboard campaign or a radio commercial or a door hanger campaign, or maybe you even bought a TV spot or a magazine things, people are going to check you out on your website, and they come to a website that they can't find, or it doesn't fit what you've promised, and it doesn't carry forward, it's really going to leave a bad taste in people's mouths. One of the things Google has been emphasizing in their evaluations of websites, in the way that they score sites for their algorithm, is on their mobile friendliness. You might think that your customers, your ideal customers or prospects, are not looking at you on a phone or a tablet. However, Google knows that they are, and they put a lot of emphasis on whether your site is mobile friendly. Search engine optimized websites also have a very quick page download speed. That is a very high point value in Google's optimization score for you, your page rank. All of those kinds of things are very important. I know I'm probably going a little heavy into this SEO piece, but believe me, you can spend some money and get some great awareness and really start people moving toward you to become customers or to buy more from you. But when they hit a website that is not a good search engine optimized website with good content, that you're going to lose it. You will lose that customer. Okay, enough of that. I'm going to move on. So the campaign then has to be fully integrated and engage the customer in a conversation. And by that, I mean you want to think about a campaign not as a one-time event, like you sent up a flare or you did skywriting, and you say, oh, that was it. That was my campaign. I put my web address and I sent a skywriter up above a huge event in a city, and everybody saw my URL and they're going to go to my website. That is not enough. To be effective, you have to, again, engage the website. So yes, I put the skywriter up there. I spent a ton of money on this great skywriter who put my URL into the sky, and it was huge, and hundreds of thousands of people saw it. They're in my target marketing area. And you send them to a website that doesn't work, but you have no way to engage that customer in what we call conversation, a way that they can look at your content, get engaged with your content, maybe even post a question or a statement or a comment, but you want to have them call you, but you need to engage the customer. And by this, both the company, your organization, and the customer or prospect learn about you, your value proposition, and that marketing position that you occupy or that you desire to occupy. The conversation is not a one-step kind of event. It should be a series of planned tactics in line with one another that you can measure and that you can find out if people are indeed learning. Maybe you're learning a little bit about the customer. You're just learning about what time of day they hit your website. You might hear what day of the week they hit your website. They look at the latency between when the ad ran or when the event took place. All of those kind of things, they're important. So I see that somebody is saying that they're in the midst of launching a new website. And phase one, we do not have a boatload of content. We do have a blog component. I'm reading it out. Yes, I'm reading this out loud. Yes, it will impact you on a search engine. I think everybody can see the question that Helen is posting.
They can, so it'd be good if you could.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. Sorry. So there is a question here about the new website doesn't have a boatload of content. They do have a blog component that'll create content, but the launch will have limited content. Yes, it will have impact. The question is, I presume this will impact you in a search engine. Yes, it will, but the point is you need to keep adding good content to the blog and or the website, link them together, and then promote them using the appropriate social media, whether it's Facebook or Pinterest or Twitter or Snapchat or whatever it might be. Again, appropriate social media. Every time you put a new piece of content out there, that I'm assuming you have done your homework, you understand what keywords your ideal customers use and think about, so that as long as you're building and increasing the content on your site, and then promoting it through social media and linking back to your blog and or your website, you'll be okay. But yes, it's better to start out and build than to just try to wait. You want to get out there as soon as possible. I hope that answers your question. There's another question that says, what are your thoughts on hiring someone to write your blog? As long as that person is very familiar with your customer and how that customer and prospect think, and as long as that writer knows what they're doing, it's okay to write. But if they really don't understand the voice of your company, they don't understand the unique selling position of your company, they're just writing words, it's not a good thing. But it's okay to hire somebody. In fact, one of my a good friend of mine, a former student of mine, has been very, very successful in the terms of many millions of dollars per year on targeted websites. He actually hires people that he trains how to write. He hires English majors, PhDs in literature, things like that, people who have a great command of language, and then has trained them in the vernacular, the terms, the usage of the keywords that they need to build around. And in a lot of his sites are very technical, but he educates them on it, and then they become writers for them. So as long as you're willing to invest in the development of those writers, then I would say it's okay to hire somebody to write your blog for you. But if it's just somebody who really doesn't know your customer, the voice of your company, or they're just gonna I'm kind of against that. So just make sure they're good. Hopefully that answers your question about hiring somebody to write your blog. But blog content is powerful. It's a blog is a unique form of a website that technically is spidered faster than most traditional websites, and therefore it should be spidered soon, so it becomes search engine friendly faster. Again, I'm probably getting off topic. So the idea that your campaign has to be fully integrated meaning it's connecting to websites or social media, the hard copy or paper or any of the other things that they're integrated, and they carry the same color schemes, the same fonts. It used to be that as long as we had the same font and we had the same colors as our logo, that we considered the marketing integrated. That's no longer the case. You have to carry the same voice, the same color schemes, the same fonts, the same ideas, the same associations across all forms of media, and the voice needs to be the same as well. And it all has to be talking in that, to that mind of, to that positioning in the customer's mind. So make sure that you're learning something along the way. There was a great book by a person named Martha Rogers who talked about one-to-one marketing. I had the opportunity to talk to her, and somebody else in the room asked a great question. I wish it was me, but it wasn't. But they asked a question of her that said, well, if you're one-to-one marketing, what's the best thing? If there's only one thing that you can do, what would that be? And she said that if you learn something about a customer, an individual, basically in the process of a conversation with them, and again, that could be a letter, it could be an email, it could be a chat session, it could be anything. If you learn something about a customer, use it in the next interaction with that customer, that conversation. So if somebody tells you their birthday, make sure you send them a birthday card or do something for them. If they tell you their favorite color is blue, the next time you have a chance to communicate or interact with that customer, make sure it's got something blue in it. If they tell you that they like or dislike something, make sure you listen to that customer. When you have a customer and you're having a conversation or an interaction with a customer and you learn something and you carry that through, it's impressive to a customer. It's like when somebody learns your name. And then they use your name. It tends to be very impressive. And in a marketing sense, in the course of an effective campaign, You need to be learning. And then what you learn, whether it's individual or collective or a macro kind of a learning in a campaign. For example, if you sent an email and you look at the statistics, again, a measurable factor on an email campaign, one tactic in a campaign series or process, and you learn that you sent it on a Monday and most people did not open it until the afternoon of Wednesday. On Wednesdays, you start realizing that maybe you should send your emails on Wednesdays. Or if you find out they're early morning or late evening readers, or they follow the links late in the day, look at the time. Look at when they interact with you. That information is a powerful learning. But those statistics, that data can be a real differentiating point if you start to realize that when they're looking at something. So I'll move on here, and you're probably thinking I'm never going to get to step 8. But and I mentioned this before, every step of the O2O campaign has to have pre-planned follow-up and follow-through tactics included. So what I mean by that is as you are working through the process, every time if you give somebody the option to call you, and hopefully you're measuring that on a unique telephone number. Yes, I don't know if you know this, but you can get a customized telephone number that will only be used. People will only call that number once you say, well, I always want them to call my main number. Well, in campaign measurement, sometimes if it's a big enough campaign, you'll set up a special call-in number. Therefore, you know where that number came from was this campaign. So then if you say you can call this number, make sure you have a pre-planned follow-up to that. In other words, a script or a brochure or an email or a PowerPoint deck or a link to a video or something that when they call you or if they email you, every step should have a pre-planned tactic on how to respond to that with something of value. So if you say, here's our contact information, and they actually contact you, make sure you don't drop the ball in the campaign. If you are talking about your ease of doing business, make sure you follow up and follow through with something that reinforces this concept of the ease of doing business. Make sure you have those planned. Again, it's like the skywriter. You can't just do the skywriting of your URL and stop and forget and think that that's going to get you everything that you want. You might build up some traffic to your website, but if you haven't planned what's going to happen after they get to that website, you've dropped the ball and it will not be an effective campaign. So I'm going to hit this one again in number 8, that this conversation has to be designed to result in a conversation which can be measured. You want to engage with your customers and or prospects, and that conversation might be a face-to-face conversation with a salesperson. It might be traffic coming into a storefront. It might be an exchange of emails. It might be something that they tweet or they like. Don't drop the ball if they actually tweet. Thank them for the retweet or the tweet. Be monitoring those channels and make sure they happen. The conversation needs to be measured. If you said, please like us, and they do like you, don't stop there. Follow up. Make sure it happens. Get the conversion. And by conversion, the only thing that matters in marketing, I know some of you are going to say, is that I get an order or that I get a sale. That's true at the end of the line. But sometimes marketing is a multi-stage process. Many of our businesses I've been involved in, you have to get a request for information or somebody talks to you, and then you have to get a request for quotation, and then you quote, and then you follow up, and then maybe you dispatch a salesperson or you do a presentation. But marketing is just the start. The campaign is just the start. And you have to set up with objectives of conversion. A conversion sometimes is not an order, depending upon your sales process, depending upon that process that somebody goes from being a suspect to a prospect to a customer, and that's a short version of it. You may have more steps or less than that. Those conversions, you want to make sure that sometimes a conversion is defined as somebody requests a brochure, or they request a video, or they ask for a sample, or they want to speak to a salesperson, or they want a follow-up sales call. Sometimes your objective is to get engaged with a follow-up phone call. That is a conversion. And then after you've engaged in a phone call, maybe they give you a request for quotation, and then you follow up on that, and you may have 5 or 6 steps yet before you get to an actual order where somebody becomes a customer, or an existing customer actually buys something that they've never purchased before. So remember, the most important thing in marketing is getting to measurable conversions. And again, that's going to take you hopefully to a sale down the road. So I have another question here. It says, any suggestions on best ways to leverage lunch and learns, brown bag events with clients or potential clients on an online campaign? That's really a great thing to do. The lunch and learn is your objective, and you run a campaign to try to get the clients to the lunch and learn. So on the best ways to leverage lunch and learns is you want to build up to the lunch and learn. You want to make sure that you have content out there on all the wonderful things they're going to learn in this lunch and learn that they won't know from your websites, the insights, the 5 steps that you've never learned before about the secrets to. Build that up through an awareness campaign in social media or press releases or anything like that. The lunch and learn itself, in a way, is a step in the process of conversion to somebody to becoming a customer, but it's also an opportunity to learn, but make sure the campaign that comes into it. So I would say the suggestions to leverage a lunch and learn is promote it, promise things, and then promise things they can't get anywhere else, and then get them to the lunch and learn, and then make sure you promise that they'll take away value that they would never get anywhere else. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I love lunch and learns as a tactic, but not an end, because the lunch and learn itself is not an end. I've done some webinars in the past where we talked about SEO, where we had tens of thousands, literally tens of thousands in the early days of webinar, and people got a lot out of them, and we never got any new customers out of them. Needless to say, we changed the way we did things. To leverage a lunch and learn. You got to put a hook into them to leverage it, to get them to become more customers. To become customers, you want to make sure they get value that they can only get from you, and then that encourages them to engage with you further. A sales call after the lunch and learn, a quotation or something like that. So hopefully that answers your question, Helen. So I'm going to move to the next slide. I think we hit some of these things before, but the slides are here for when the deck is downloaded. Search engine optimization, and then just know that SEO is search engine optimization, which I talked about. Integrated marketing communications. This is the American Marketing Association definition of integrated marketing from their website, Marketing Power. The idea that it is a process. We're gonna use that piece of information and carry that forward. And then search engine optimized content. Remember, so I'm using a new word here called pervasive search engine technology on the web and on the desktop. One of the things that most people don't realize is that some of these search engines inside an organization, whether it's a large customer or whether it's on somebody's desktop, that when we have these search tools, that they're not, or if a customer is using Evernote, or if they've collected things either as attachments or as an email or any of those kind of things. Pervasive search is this whole idea of search engine optimized content is not just for your website. It also extends to social media. It also can extend, depending upon how your customers or the organizations who your customers belong to, it might include searching their desktop and their email files. So you want to make sure that all of your content, and I'm saying that all of your content, it's not just a brochure, it's not just a web page, but your videos, your social media, your explanations, your press releases, directions, instruction sheets that people may download from on how to put something together or work with something, recipes. You want to make sure that you're using the keywords that your ideal customers are familiar with. So when they go to their laptop or they go to their tablet or they go to their browser, which literally will search sometimes their desktop, what's on their devices, and in their browser history, that content, all of the content needs to have those search ends, those keywords associated with them. So, for example, if you have and you're starting, if you don't see this already, if you see people that are doing they're doing verbal kind of they're doing podcasts, and so the podcast is put out on a website or in a blog. So the blog content is there, and maybe they've promoted the blog content. But do you ever wonder why they put the transcript of the blog or the podcast along with it? That's because they know that the search engines will find the words, that the keywords, hopefully, that are optimized. So when you do, for example, a podcast, a recording of some wonderful content that is verbal, you can put keywords with the podcast, but it's even better if your podcast is search engine optimized, meaning it is using keywords that are familiar and used by your ideal customer. And that's why you're starting to see on McKinsey and on a number of websites where the transcript of the podcast accompanies the file where you can either download it or play it from your phone or whatever, because it's the search engines that find the content. They can't listen. A search engine cannot listen to a podcast, but it can read and scan very quickly a transcript. So remember, all of your content, if you have a video, make sure there's a very good description with keywords and tags on the video. Make sure any pictures that you put on your website, any photographs, any drawings that are in JPEG files, that they have alt tags on them. Your web designers can help you with that. McKinsey, just somebody wants to know about McKinsey, just Google McKinsey, and you will find McKinsey. It's the big consulting firm. There's some great ones. There's some great ones there. Some great podcasts. Just a note about this search engine optimized content. A search engine cannot listen to a podcast. It cannot see a photograph unless you've tagged it properly. And if it's a video, make sure that you've described it properly or included a script or a transcript of what's said on the video. So that's what we mean by content. Think about content in a much, much broader sense. An email, by the way, is content. So integrated marketing is this process again. Think of a campaign as a process. So you're moving a customer through the process where you're learning and they're learning. And generally it's a mix of marketing tactics. And I use this term of inextricably intertwined, the idea that they're connected and brought together, just like URLs on a website. But the idea is all these tactics are trying to get to a specific objective, which is moving people along the learning and eventually to the conversion or the buying objective. So then we get to the next step in this idea, which is the fact that you have an SEO integrated marketing process. So it's a marketing process that thinks about all the things that search engines do, and then the tactics within the marketing mix, product, price, place, promotion, to achieve your overall strategic objective, which we assumed at the beginning of this discussion was that you were going to grow your business. I need a time check here. How much time do we have left?
We have 40 minutes left.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so if you've seen this kind of the integrated marketing definition where I've pulled the SEO into it to talk about where we want to go with this design. So the benefits to you as a marketer, as a business owner, as a business manager or something of search engine search engine optimized integrated marketing, if you do this well and you follow the steps that I've talked about so far, is that your results are highly quantifiable. Now, the quantification will also tell you maybe that you failed, but you need to know that it didn't work. The idea, the benefit of a search engine optimized integrated media campaign is that you're using multimedia and multimedia, which means that you're reaching different emotions, different senses, different ways that people connect. Some people like to hear. That's the recorded verbal content. Some people like pictures, some people like video, some people like all of the above, but you have multiple ways to reach a prospect or a customer. You also have, with this search engine optimized content, remember, all of the content and all of it's formed that has this long-term residual impact on awareness. In other words, if somebody goes back to their browser, or they use the search in the lower left-hand corner of a PC, or they use the search on a Mac or something like that, that content that's sitting on their machine or somewhere on one of their hard drives or something like that, that may actually pop up and get that. You may get this residual impact. For example, somebody searched for a blue sweater. All of a sudden, you search for blue sweater again, and that's the blue sweater that I wanted before. You have the opportunity, when you can measure things, that you can continuously improve. Figure out where your process fell apart. Did it fall apart when they hit your website? Did it fall apart when they hit your shopping cart? Did it fall apart when they saw your pricing? Anytime you're using that kind of information, or after you sent the brochure out in the mail, did you not hear from them again? Well, did you follow up with them? So you have the opportunity to continuously improve your campaigns, your measurement, your learning. You have that opportunity. If you build a good, quantifiable, well-measured process, you can continuously improve. And then it leads to this highly targeted, unique selling proposition. So you can target, and more you know about your customers, you can start targeting individual needs and individual kinds of preferences. So you know if certain customers converted when they saw the video, you know that if you want to sell something to that group of customers or that type of prospects or that kind of ideal customer, you know you need to create information or content about your unique selling proposition in that format. So there's a lot of benefits to using this methodology as you move forward. The heart of all these things are keywords. You heard me talk about this. This is more of a review. Make sure that all your web pages and all your electronic collateral, even your printed stuff, make sure that you're bathing them in those keywords, and those are all quantified. You can get all that kind of information of what the right keywords are, how often they're used. That's all available on the web through multiple sources. Make sure email campaigns and your press releases are also search engine optimized, because they're going to sit around and you're going to bring things back. It'll come back to you. So the process is this idea of understanding your strategic objectives, understand the marketing objectives. So this is based on your company, your organization. What are you trying to do? Grow. Your marketing objective is to get new customers or more of the same customers, or to target individuals. You have to understand your market, your industry, your segments, your targets, and your competitive position. Before you build the campaign, you have to have all of these kind of things in place. Then you understand your campaign objectives. So you know what your marketing objective. Now you may run multiple campaigns, different types of campaigns, but what are your campaign objectives? And then you understand that sometimes you are experimenting before you scale up, before you spend the big bucks. Test market, test your campaigns, make sure they work so that you can continuously improve. Once you've done those kinds of things, you're ready to design and build a very effective campaign. So I was trying to make that very dramatic, and I don't think it worked. So I'm going to get now to the case study. If you have a question, let me know. Clap, clap. Thank you very much, Helen. Okay, so this is an actual case study. I happen to be an engineer and a geek and all those kind of things. So it's going to be this is a B2B O2O campaign. It's in the area of industrial automation. This is a real company, and it's a real campaign and with real results, although I've disguised the company name. They were a client of mine. I ran this company for a while. They asked me to take it over, and well, I'll tell you about the results a little later. So this is not real important, but this company was an engineering company. It built control panels. It had engineering services. It also did these new forms of things called informatics, which is big data, those kind of things, collecting big data through electronic means. They had some of these kind of things, and then they could do these other services as well. So they had all of these services, but they mainly were known for is the idea that they were a control panel manufacturer, which, by the way, in Milwaukee, there's quite a few of them. It's a very competitive marketplace. Milwaukee was the home of Cutler Hammer, Eaton, Allen Bradley, Square D, all of those companies. So there's a lot of people around here who build control panels for all over the world. This company was one of those companies, but they also had all of these services that they really didn't get the word out on. So we had to look at the company as a whole and figure out what the strategic objectives were for the company. And what we decided after we talked to our customers, yes, we did. We went out into the field and talked to our customers, our existing customers. This company was around for about it had about a 20-year history at the time this campaign was run, but it was stagnated at as a small business around $2 million. Let's just throw that number out there. But it was stagnated for a number of years. They kept a lot of their customers. There was no marketing function, and there was no sales function. Basically, they sat back and waited for the phone to ring. So the idea was to grow the company. That was why I was hired, to grow the company. And we went out and talked to customers about what they knew about us, what they liked about us, what they didn't like about us, what they didn't know about us, and we just talked to them. And we decided that to grow this company, what we needed to do was to create a better engineering identity, because we had capabilities in engineering that nobody knew about. We wanted to increase the revenue from these good customers who had been on our books for a long time. We had these existing clients, many of which were around some were around for 20 years, some had been around for 10 or 15 years, but we also knew that we could increase revenue from new clients, and that we wanted to position in the mind of the customer that we had thought leadership position on engineering, integration, and informatics. Now remember, we were known as and thought of as a control panel manufacturing company. We designed and built control panels, but many of the engineering things that were on those services we had the capability to do, but very few people asked us to do it because they were unaware of the strong engineering work that we could do. There were a lot of engineers in this small company, and they came from a lot of good places. And then we also thought we should develop a product somewhere down the road. So these are the things that we said, if we were going to grow the company, these are the things that we needed to do strategically to grow the company. So then what we needed to do was figure out, okay, how are we going to market these kind of things? So the first thing we did after we created these strategic initiatives or objectives, before we started to think about the marketing of this, so we're going to focus now very quickly on marketing. We had to understand that we had a terrible website, and that before we started driving people to the website, when we're out talking to customers, they wanted to check us out because, of course, when they said, well, can you program a drive, which is something that somebody said, well, one of the questions we asked the customer was, what kind of services would you like if we could do anything from an engineering firm? He says, oh, I wish somebody could program one of our drives. It's like, well, we can do that. And then they would say, well, I wish people understood how to integrate this type of equipment to this type of equipment. It's like, well, we can do that. So we're making these claims, but we had no evidence. We had nothing out. So we know that people started going to our website, but we knew our website stunk. So remember before I told you that anytime you do any of these things, people are going to check you out on your website? Well, they never had a reason to do that before because all they did was call us, send us a print, and we built it. So now we had to realize we had to improve our website. So we did that, and then we started moving on with marketing initiatives. So what we wanted to do from a marketing standpoint, based on our strategic direction, what we wanted to do was we wanted to create an identity. We wanted people to think of us as an engineering firm that also manufactured, as opposed to a manufacturing company that did a little bit of engineering. By the way, engineering pays a lot better than manufacturing. So our profitability was something that the owner wanted to increase. So we wanted to make sure we were getting an identity for something that paid us well, which was engineering. We had to develop a competitive position. Everything was based before on doing good work, but at a good price. And so the idea of the competitive position before had all been based on price and doing good work, but it was basically price. And we wanted to develop a new competitive position. We wanted to create a database of prospects, people that we could work through the pipeline, and I'll tell you why in a minute. We wanted to create and fill the pipeline, and we had to develop marketing collateral. And by collateral, I mean a website and brochures and things like that, tools that we could use in the marketing process. So these are the overall marketing initiatives. Now let's take it to a campaign. So marketing is generally a series of campaigns. Some are running in parallel. Some of them run one after the other. But this is one example of one campaign based on what we knew about this particular about this industry and about our customers. So like I said, this is a very real type of thing. But so what we knew, what we learned was that this particular company was very good at doing industrial automation controls for the meat processing industry. And by that, it means that meat is brought in and then it is ground up and made into burgers or meatballs or other types of process. So it was a meat processing industry. So we are now, that's the industry we're going to work in. The market that we're working is food processing. In other words, we take food, meat, and their controls. So our customers, these were our customers. They needed this type of product. They were in this industry, and the specific area was meat processing, and that was turning basically meat, that as it came off of the animal into hamburgers or whatever. So we haven't talked about this before, but for this particular company, the long-term value of these customers, the lifetime value of these customers was in excess of $600,000. Some of them, so this was more of an average, some of them were well over $1 million. So in the lifetime of a customer on the book that was in this industry, that they had done well over $600,000. Some of the customers had done over $1 million worth of business with this particular company over the period of 20 years. So that was the lifetime value of a customer. So acquiring a customer like this, a new customer like this, is very valuable. So now you look at the return on investment of how much you're willing to spend, how much time you're willing to spend, how much risk you're willing to take to try to acquire these customers. You start to quantify that, and so that's what we were shooting for, was trying to acquire more of these folks. So the target within the segment, within the meat processing companies, we knew because the companies don't buy, people buy, and that they were the plant managers, the plant engineers, and the maintenance personnel who made the decision to buy our controls. And the position that we wanted in the mind of these people, again, the marketing position is established in the mind of the customer, and that was we wanted to be more of an engineering company, not just a control manufacturer. We had to establish with this campaign in the mind of these people the position that we were a strategic supplier of engineering and controls. We had a history of doing controls, but we wanted to create this position in the mind of the customer that we could do engineering, and very specifically, we could do this area of real-time data collection. Now, this was done back in this history that I'm digging into was 2008 and 9. Everybody remembers 2008 and 9. This was done in 2008 and 9, and this is what we now call big data. We could collect big data on the manufacturing floor, and we could do that where a lot of our people couldn't. The campaign that we're going to talk about right now is called specify TEI automation. That's what we called it internally. That's what we promoted it as, was this idea is we wanted these people to specify us as a supplier of engineering and controls. So we didn't just want to manufacture the control box. That was that yellow thing we had on the slide before. We wanted to actually write the specification, do the engineering and the programming, and then we had them they wanted to specify us. That would take the value of these orders and of an individual order to well over $100,000. So this kind of lifetime value was built up by selling orders of maybe $10,000 or $20,000. These type of projects where we were doing this kind of work, the engineering and controls, the manufacturing and the engineering, would take a typical order maybe into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. So again, what are we willing to gather? New customers that would have a very high lifetime value with a very high average order value. So then we take the next step is to start creating a campaign objective. So I told before, you have to have everything measurable. So I'm jumping forward just a little bit. But so this campaign of specifying, when we knew we needed to be in the meat processing industry, we went out and bought a list of 2,500 names of plant engineers, plant supervisors, plant safety, those kind of people in those meat processing plants. And we said that our objectives were increased awareness, new prospect, new customer acquisitions, and creating new relationships, because we wanted to create all this kind of awareness that we were an engineer, and we created these success measures. So out of 2,500, our goal, and we did put time frames on them, they were SMART goals, but as far as the quantity right now, we wanted to get 250 new contacts. A contact for us was somebody off that list who somehow connected with us, so that now we knew that name was a good name. If you've ever bought lists before from publishing companies and so on, sometimes the names are not good, sometimes they go nowhere, sometimes they're plants to make sure you're not reusing lists and so on. But we wanted to make sure we got 250 new contacts out of it into our CRM database. The next thing we wanted to do was, out of that campaign, we wanted to make sure we got a request for information from 10% of those new contacts. We had set a goal that we wanted 25 people to come back and say, I'd like to get more information on your site. Sometimes they asked, and sometimes they just went to the website. We have the data to prove it. The third thing was, after somebody requested more information and they looked at us, and we had case studies and all kinds of things on our site that said we literally knew what we were doing, and I'll talk about what that is in a second, we wanted people to give us a request for a proposal. We wanted 5 of them. Our goal was to get 5 of them by a certain date. We wanted to get 5. Remember, we started with 2,500. We wanted to get to 5 requests for proposal. We know we were going up against a lot of other firms that never, and these companies had never known us as somebody who could do this work. And out of those 5 requests for proposal, we wanted to get 2, only 2, face-to-face meetings where people are going to give you this kind of work. They want you to come in and prove yourself and do maybe a survey of the plant. So just think about that. All of this marketing, all of this work was to get 2 face-to-face meetings, and of course, at the end of this, we were happy with getting 1 new customer. Remember, a multiple, many tens of thousands of dollars, maybe $100,000 order from the proposal, where we went from 5 to 2 to 1. And the idea was, over a period of time, we'd have $600,000 plus in lifetime value. So this overall campaign we had these kind of goals. So again, we wanted to get to 1 new customer ideally, but at the same time, we would increase awareness among at least 250, maybe 2,500. We would get some prospects. These people become prospects when they request a proposal, and we wanted to create new relationships with only 2 people. We would take more, and we actually did get more. So the campaign. So the campaign basically went like this. The first tactic we did was, remember, this is O2O, was offline. It was a direct mail letter. We sent a letter to these 2,500 people through the United States Postal Service, understanding their industry, their target market. It was very much that we let people know in 3 paragraphs that we knew the secondary meat processing industry, that we had a history of those kind of things. And that what we did was we directed the integration point was we directed them in the letter to a personal landing page on our website, our improved website that had the content that we knew that they would look for. They would look for whose controls components we were using, the fact that we knew how to program. We had profiles of our engineers. We let them know that we had people from the University of Wisconsin, from the Milwaukee School of Engineering, from Purdue, from Marquette University. These are well known in the Midwest if you're not in the Midwest, but these were all good. Our engineers had good pedigrees. So those, when they went from the paper, the offline, we drove them online to look to a personal landing page. We had the technology develop a page. When they typed in a personal URL, which was in the letter, we know that they landed on this landing page, and then there were links on that landing page. So we took them to the landing page, and that landing page, which is just a web page specifically designed for this campaign, and then we used deep website links. In other words, we took them from the landing page into the website, which had testimonials, had profiles, and then we learned about them. Remember, I told you have to learn. We learned about that particular customer because we could track them back from this personal landing site. We could track them back and know what they looked at. And then from those web pages, we started to put them into this conversion funnel. In other words, we were tracking that person through the pipeline, knowing what they looked at or if they didn't look at anything. And then we would send them a brochure. We also had an opportunity so we went online to offline. We mailed them a brochure, and then that brochure had more website links in it. We also put out in parallel a press release. We released it in a couple different places that we were going to have this campaign, and we had this. We were announcing that we had all this capability. The press release had its own landing page, so this was running in parallel to this campaign. And then anytime people visited these sites, they had the opportunity to request more information, request proposal, request a sales call, or they could call us. And all of these things were recorded in a CRM system. And then when they called us, because we knew customers like to call it, they didn't just buy things off the web. There was no way to do this because it was all custom engineered. We had a script in our CRM that would allow us to ask them a series of questions. We would answer their questions, of course, and then we would get to the point where we would follow up based on what would happen in this phone call, where we would give them email follow-up with links back to our website. And then we promised to run a webinar, and we ran that in parallel. Just like you had asked before, we didn't do a brown bag. We had a webinar where these people that we had connected with over here, because they went in and visited the website, that goal of 250, and then we created a new campaign around the webinar invitation. So I can tell you that if you remember 2008 and 2009, I told you this company was around a $2 million a year company. This campaign brought in 3 new customers, and we had other campaigns we were running in parallel. If you remember back at that time, the only money that was being spent was on roads. I mean, overall in the engineering world, the manufacturers were all scaling down and they were all kind of contracted. But we found that we were able to do, because people still ate, so this industry was doing very well, and they were actually building new capabilities. And the other thing was energy, and we went into a new, based on our interviews, we found out the only sector that was growing was energy, and we ran a campaign similar to this into energy, and we actually doubled the business of this company by 2009. Because we took on some huge energy projects as well as some new, which literally got us millions of dollars. And so it was very, very effective. These techniques were used. They were very effective. So I can give you a little bit of a picture. And so this isn't a very good picture. I'm not a graphic guy, but anyways, this is kind of a model that I like. So in the middle here in this bullseye, was this idea of what we were doing, automation engineering. Overall, that's what we were doing. We're automating some energy type work where we were working with offline solar and all of these kind of things. We could do that engineering work, and we could do hardware and software, and we had been doing this for 20 years. So this is the unique selling proposition of this particular company. The unique selling proposition was we had this experience and we could do this kind of work, and that we wanted to be known for engineering. So when you think about it from a content strategy, marketing brands, marketing is done generally through conversations. Conversations often take the form of stories. If you read about brand building, most brand building is done through storytelling. So if you think about this model for your company or organization, put your unique selling proposition in the center and think about whether you have 2, 4, 6, 3, whatever it might be. Think about around this area. Think about the stories that you can tell. So this company could tell stories about how we had integrated different types of technology. We could tell stories about how we got hardware to work in very tough areas, and we solved engineering problems. We talked about the fact that we could do software and we could collect data, and we had 20 years of history, so we were reliable and we were somebody they could trust. So when you think about that, think about this in the context of your organization. And all of these kind of things are, what are the stories that you can tell? What are the stories that are unique about your business, about your service, about your products? Tell those stories. Create content around those stories and build campaigns around getting that content into the conversation for your customers. All of these things around here, these are all tactics you can draw from. So we pulled on SEO content, we pulled on brochures. We actually did personalized promotion pages. That was that personalized. We did linking tactics, and we wrote. I think there's direct mail on here somewhere, but we use direct mail. So these you can kind of put yourself on this map, put your unique selling proposition in here. Talk about the stories, create those stories, and then weave together a process that uses these online to offline techniques. So we have a question about RSS and how do you use it. What is an RSS? RSS stands for really simple syndication. Really simple syndication. RSS is built into a lot of things like news feeds, weather feeds, all of that. It's a technology in the background. So it's people that can subscribe to content. So if you get reports on the weather, chances are people are, like the Weather Channel or something, you are subscribing to an RSS feed. Using an RSS feed offers something of value like a stock price, like a weather feed, like an update on the news of your industry or something like that. But RSS is really simple syndication, and it's technology that allows you to connect to. So newspapers use it, apps use it, a lot of people use it. And it's sitting as this technology in the background that pushes content into an app, like Pulse for LinkedIn or any of those kind of things where you sign up and it sends it either into an app or it sends it to your email. It's not an email feed. Remember, RSS is different than email subscription. If you know anything about it, but an email subscription, they can take you off the list or not. With RSS, it's in the user control. So there's a lot of people who prefer. So just like if you sign up for a subscription for weather in a city, and then you take yourself out of the subscription, they cannot push you information about the weather in that city, or they can't send you a stock price if they're using RSS because you, the user, control that content. So RSS, if you have a great blog, people can subscribe to your content through an RSS feed. So anytime appropriate content is available on a website, people subscribe through RSS. It's not an announcement of everything, and it's not push. It's a subscription. So RSS is a very cool technology, and if you have good stuff, you start to realize what your people want, and then you can offer the kind of stuff that. So, for example, if you're Ford, and I'm not saying Ford does this or doesn't, I don't know, but if you're Ford and you own you own an Explorer. You own a Ford Explorer, a 2015 Ford Explorer. If you go to Ford and they have an RSS feed, you can sign up and get emails about all the new cars and everything that's going on about Ford, or you could subscribe to only news about the Ford Explorer, and maybe if there's a recall or an update or a new feature or some other kind of thing that applies specifically to your model of Ford Explorer, that's how you can use a really simple subscription. So in our case, if in this particular company, people either used Siemens controls or they use Rockwell controls. And people who have Rockwell controls in their factory, they don't care about Siemens controls. So to send them an email about send somebody who uses Rockwell in their plant, and you send them an email about Siemens, they don't care. With really simple syndication, RSS, you can have them sign up for those things, and it only sends them notifications of stuff that's really specifically targeted to that customer. It's a really cool thing if you know who your customers are and what they do. And it's in the user's control, so they tend to love it. I hope that answers your question. But you can go out and Google RSS feeds. You can go on the bottom of most blogs and find out an RSS feed and figure out how to do that. And most times you can integrate RSS feeds into your email if you want to, or you can put them into an RSS reader, or you can bring them into an app. So we probably could do a whole webinar on RSS feeds in the marketing realm. So I'm going to move on now because we only have a few minutes left. If I'm correct, 8 minutes. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. But also, if people can stay around, and if you want to keep going, you're welcome to keep going past the 4 p.m. mark. Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I'm actually at the review point. So these are my slides. Remember the three strategic requirements. Make sure you have objectives and goals that are based on what you want the company to do and how you want the company to benefit. Because it's not just about marketing. Marketing is there to grow the company or to build the image or whatever it is. Make sure you're working from a unique selling proposition, and make sure you understand the marketing proposition. The selling proposition could be of your company, of your product, or your service, or all of the above. Make sure you understand the marketing position that you're trying to achieve overall with marketing, but especially with a campaign. So if you want to have an effective O2O, online to offline campaign, make sure you have these 3 things. So I'm reviewing now if you haven't figured that out. So if you have questions, let's have them come in. Remember, went too many clicks. Make sure you're working on a strategic objective that we talked about before. Make sure it's rooted and developed and built around your unique selling proposition. Don't confuse your customers or your prospects. You want to use a campaign to solidify your marketing position. You want to make sure everything is measurable. There is no excuse for not being able to measurable. If you use O2O tactics, online to offline tactics, by involving the web or social media or any of these kinds of things, you can get measurements where things were previously unmeasurable. The next step is to go on and make sure that all of your content, make sure all of your O2O campaigns involve a search engine optimized website. This is something that you should do before you run these great campaigns. So if you run a great campaign, but you drive them to a crummy website that's not search engine optimized, you'll lose some of the capabilities. Make sure you're fully integrated, and make sure you learn. Look at the data, measure the data, follow the patterns, and all of the data is very important. Make sure it's out there. And some of it's not so important, but you can figure things out. Make sure everything is pre-planned, and that you have follow-up tactics, that you have a brochure ready, you have links that you can send out, you have videos, you have case studies, you have testimonials. Whatever it is you're going to promise, make sure that you have those things available before you begin the campaign. And remember, what you're really trying to do is think of this as a conversation. And the only thing that you want to, the thing that you have to do is get them and move them along the pipeline. It's a process. A marketing campaign is a process, a conversation that you have, and you move them to conversion. So that is what I have. We have a few minutes left, and I will hang around if anybody has questions. So whether you want to post them in chat, or whether you want to I don't know how you want to do this, Laura, but I want to thank you for your attention. I hope this was of value to you. Go forth and create some great online to offline or offline to online. I'd like to throw out a really kind of a crazy thing. Sometimes people say, oh, you have to use all this high-tech stuff. And if you're a local pizza joint, if you run a local pizza joint, and I like pizza joints, and I like local pizza joints, and you go around and put door hangers on your doors in your neighborhood, maybe you serve a half-mile radius, and you put one of those things where you hang it on the doorknob, and you say that, hey, we got a great new Hawaiian pizza available from the local shop down the street. You can involve these techniques by driving them to your website to get a coupon. And then when they go to the websites and they see that they can also get Hawaiian pizza and they can upsell, because we can take the Hawaiian pizza and we can add olives to it or peppers, or who knows what your upsell is on the pizza, but then have them go to that website. Maybe you don't even order off that website, but have them go get a coupon or get a code, have it go to a landing page, and then when they order the pizza, have them tell you that. You know how effective your door hanging stuff is. So I mean, even in the most simple billboards, you can use a billboard, drive them to a website, and measure the results. Radio ads, same kind of thing. I have a question that says, do you think case studies are necessary? We're an HR consulting firm. We have a lot of great testimonials already. Testimonials, case studies, they're almost the same kind of thing. I'm gonna jump back on it and say, what do your customers want to read? Do they want testimonials where they can click through and contact the people who was in the testimonial? Case studies, remember, are search engine optimized content. So sometimes that will be what people bring people to your site. So again, it depends upon your industry. As an HR consulting firm, I do kind of think that a few case studies about how you did something for somebody, that it explains how you add value, yeah, you might want to consider it. But talk to your customers, see what they want. I know that's kind of a cop-out, but I think that's important. Thank you for the compliments that I'm coming through the chat window as well. I appreciate it. So if there is nothing else, I bid you adieu. Great selling, great marketing, and go forth and make the world a better place to live and work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gene. That was a really great webinar. And everyone, just a reminder that the slides will be posted on Intrize Connect, and the recording will be as well, although unfortunately we're missing the first 20 minutes or so due to that recording snafu. But thank you all for joining, and thank you again, Gene.
My pleasure.
All right. Have a good one, everyone.